Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias to Guy. Well, we got a few things we're going to go over today, and I'm definitely going to have to slap the milk cartel around because this is going to be a huge negotiating, Trump knows what he wants. The farmers down there know the system is completely socialist here in Canada. And it's not just the United States. There have been many countries who have dropped trade and tariffed and major fights over this absolutely stupid milk cartel, which I bring up on so many different episodes. And again, I am going to probably do it'll probably be a 3-part, maybe even more series on the milk cartel, because it's just the complexity of it. And how many people are affected by all the different aspects of the rules in Canada and each province as well, which we're going to dabble on a bit of that here today. We're also going to talk about how the EU has just exempt the heavy industry tax, heavy industry from carbon taxes. This is all a push from the Trump administration. I believe nobody's really talking about it. I'm having a hard time kind of finding the evidence linked to it. But the fact that they dropped it right after they pretty much did a signed deal, which happened at the G7, there were still some finalities that they were working out. And I believe this was one of the major aspects because the administration down south, and there's other countries that are doing this as well, are onto the green carbon scam. They're seeing what's going on, and they want it over. They're tired of it. They're tired of the lies, and they're tired of the insanity of watching people not even see how their governments have been corrupted by the green cartels like Canada. We are one of the worst. So, yeah, and then we're going to dabble on a couple other things if we have time. Let's just get started with this article from Financial Times. So the EU is to exempt heavy industry from carbon tax on exports. Concessions to support European producers in the face of foreign competition follow calls to ease the climate targets. The EU's heavy industry will be allowed to claim compensation for exports funded by the bloc's carbon border tax in new plans covering polluters as Brussels comes under pressure to weaken climate rules. The European Commission will propose on Wednesday that sectors such as steel, cement, and aluminum should be exempt from paying for the carbon emissions of their exports to level the playing field with foreign competitors, according to EU officials involved in the talks. So everything that Carney was, we're going to do, everybody's trading in this carbon system, carbon tax. Everybody, it's mandatory. Lies. Him pushing his own agenda for his own investor companies, Brookfield, his own private wealth, and the wealth of the cartels. They're slowly getting the living daylights kicked out of them with reality. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. More people need to get the truth. Sorry. Just the facts, just the truth. The proposal comes amid heated debate over the ability of the EU to meet its climate targets against the backdrop of global trade war and rapid shift of priorities towards defense and economic competitiveness. The EU's climate commissioner, Wopke Hoekstra, told the Financial Times that the EU had to double down on making the conditions for meeting the targets better for business. Measures such as the bloc's carbon border tax were fantastic for decarbonization, but would not be at the expense of our own companies and that they face unfair competition on the global market, he said. Oh, reality's kicking in. Right. The plans will be presented alongside a new target to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 90% in 2040 compared to 1990 levels. A target that several member states, including France, have said that they will not agree to unless there are concessions for industry and better acknowledgement of nuclear power. Blah, 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 blah. And as always, I post everything in the description below so you have access to everything that I research if you want to fact check on your own, or for the most part, I know my subscribers are very intuitive, intellectual people, and they like to actually dive in and read this stuff and inform themselves of the truth. Sorry, just the truth. Now, we're going to move on here a little bit further. There were some BOMB threats all across Canada today, causing major havoc at a lot of airports. Let's just dive into this clip.
Some airports across Canada could see delays following bomb threats early this morning. Nav Canada said in a social media post this morning that it was made aware of bomb threats affecting facilities in major cities, including Ottawa, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary, and Vancouver. It added a temporary ground stop had been implemented at some airports and facilities had been evacuated. A short time later, it gave an update saying service was gradually resuming at affected sites. Travelers are being told to check the status of their flight before heading to the airport.
They canceled the flight, not in the initially, no, but when we went to the desk again, they told us it was canceled because of a bomb threat.
I was going back to Vancouver, back to my new home from Ottawa. I'm not worried about it. I feel like, these things are almost never real. I guess security, the extra juice is worth the squeeze if maybe it's a real thing. But yeah, I just got to get someone to pick me up from the airport now, basically.
I was booked on a flight from Ottawa to Vancouver at 9:05 and the flight was cancelled. Yes, there was a security incident on the airport, they told us. They rebooked the flight for tomorrow, which is not very convenient. And I asked whether there are any flights for today. They said they are fully booked. And now I'm trying to get a flight by another airline and cancel this one.
So, we're going to move on. This was an announcement made earlier today. The federal government is going to invest $13.3 million in clean energies in Alberta and Northwest Territories. I'm going to play a little clip of this, and then we're just going to smack the living daylights out of the complete backwards supposed save the planet and just debunk. Well, I'll play it and we'll go from there. This is just, you can't make this stuff up.
Thank you, Minister DeBrusen. I'm excited for us to take a significant step towards a sustainable future in Alberta and the Northwest Territories today. This $13.3 million in funding supports 5 renewable energy projects under the Low Carbon Economy Fund.
Low Carbon Economy Fund. Right.
And demonstrates our collective commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions while fostering clean growth, resilient communities, and more opportunities for Northerners. Here in the Northwest Territories, Denendeh Manor GP Limited is being awarded approximately $2.3 million to enhance energy efficiencies at the site, an Indigenous-owned apartment building. Upgrades will include a biomass heating system, energy efficient.
A what?
Upgrades will include a biomass heating system, energy efficient retrofits.
Okay, now I'm all for the retrofits, which they go into, and that is great. Better insulation, better windows, better doors. Totally agree with that. Why wouldn't you, to cut down the bills on the people? That makes total sense. Biomass? This is complete insanity. Now, biomass. Carbon neutral or worse than coal? I'm going to post 4 different articles on here. 4 different articles on here for my subscribers and viewing audience to go over and read. This has all... RFK, years ago, jumped on this bandwagon. And then, all of a sudden, people were coming out. A lot of whistleblowers were coming out and talking about the companies. How they weren't just using scrap because they couldn't use scrap. Scrap makes really crappy pellets. They were actually going through real lumber. And they were deforesting huge. I'm talking hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of hectares of land. When they started to do the math, they realized this is the exact opposite of environmentalism. RFK ended up diving a little bit deeper, took about 5,000 steps back, and went, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now, he's gone silent. I haven't done any research. That was years ago when I saw that. As far as I know, he hasn't jumped back on that bandwagon. But there is piles of evidence coming out that this whole biomass, the wood pellet, is a complete farce. This is a make money quick scam at the expense of our own environment. In other words, you have to pay a huge amount of dollars to go and take dead wood from your own area, if you're even allowed to with the new environmental rules, to burn it to save yourself money. And now the government has deemed wood stoves as a carbon catastrophe. You can't do that. That's craziness. But you can't burn natural gas either. We're going to tax you on that because that's just craziness. So instead, we're going to cut down trees, use machinery, trucking, all the other resources needed in order to get these trees and this bush and this refuse to plants that use huge amounts of energy to chip them down and compress them into pellets, to then go back to the same resources and start shipping and distributing wood chips all around the world for you to burn in wood stoves. Or even call it a wood boiler, wood stove. Because I know, guys, lots of farmers around here that have outdoor boilers that they burn wood in. They used to burn coal, but now what used to cost them $15, the carbon taxes on it are like $1,100 for $15 in coal. Used to be able to drive up, give the guy a couple cases of beer, he'd take all the scraps off the road, fill your truck, your box of your truck, and you drive home. Now, oh no, leave that on the ground. Don't touch that. You're gonna kill the planet. Biomass is a farce. Let's dive in to a few of these articles. As of 2020, 22% of Europe's energy comes from renewable resources, but that 60% of him is bioenergy. Much of the woody biomass that is used to generate electricity in thermal power plants or heat homes with pellet burning stoves. Environmentalists say that climate benefits to bioenergy cease when pellets are made from living trees harvested to produce bioenergy. Wood has a lower energy density than coal, so burning wood can emit more carbon dioxide, CO2, per unit of energy than coal. Now there's loopholes, and this is what the zealots are using. However, because plants and trees regrow and eventually absorb the CO2 produced by combustion, biomass is classified as a renewable carbon neutral under international climate change policies and regulations. Combining bioenergy with carbon capture and storage can also make it carbon negative, removing more CO2 from the atmosphere than it creates. Okay. Despite what IPCC scientists say about bioenergy's role in shifting the world's energy generation away from fossil fuels such as coal and natural gas, environmentalists are skeptical about bioenergy's climate change benefits no longer add up. As one of the largest players in the wood pellet industry, UK's Drax Group is under particular scrutiny in Canada, the United States, and Europe. Last year, S&P Global removed Drax and 14 other clean energy companies from its clean energy index. So why are environmentalists in Europe and North America stepping up their campaigns against the woody biomass industry? As demand for biomass energy grows, the industry is running out of wood waste and increasingly relying on deforestation, they say. There is a possibility, so is burning wood instead of coal to generate electricity really carbon neutral? Or, as the New York Times suggests in a recent article on the wood pellet industry and its impact in northern European forests, is burning wood dirtier than burning coal? Burning coal to produce 1 kilowatt hour of electricity releases 900 grams of CO2. Natural gas produces 450 grams of CO2. By contrast, burning biomass to produce 1 kilowatt electricity, Pierre said, would produce a neutral carbon footprint. But there may be a real concern about the carbon deficit, the time it takes trees to regrow and absorb the CO2 released by combustion. Deficits can grow as more trees of life are used to replace the wood waste already produced by forestry, especially if forests are not managed sustainably. The impact of bioenergy varies greatly depending on its source and technology, Pierre said. Woody biomass, he said, where plantations are drivers of land use change and deforestation or require intensive use of fertilizers and other fossil resources, carbon scarcity and payback periods can be as high as 84 years. I'm going to move on. I urge you, read this whole article. It breaks it down. It breaks a lot of it down. So biomass burning, a major carbon polluter. Wood inherently emits more carbon per BTU than other fuels. Natural gas, 117.8 pounds CO2. Bituminous coal, 205 pounds CO2. Wood, 213. Wood is often wet and dirty, which degrades heating value. Typically, moisture content in wood is 45 to 50%, which means its BTU content per pound is about half of that of bone-dry wood. Before useful energy can be derived from burning wood, some of the wood's BTUs are required to evaporate all that water. Biomass boilers operate less efficiently than fossil fuel boilers. This is what they're putting in up north. This is what that news guide, the news release I just showed you, is about. Data from Air Planet permit reviews and the Energy Information Administration. Utility scale biomass boiler, 24%. Average efficiency of U.S. coal fleet, 33%. Average gas plant, 43%. Huge difference. These facts are not controversial and are born out of actual air permit numbers. The air permit for the We Energies biomass facility at the Dumtar paper plant in Rothschild provides an example of how biomass and fossil fuel carbon emissions compare. The mill has proposed to install a new natural gas boiler alongside a new biomass boiler. The presented carbon emission numbers for both the relevant sections of the permit are shown below. They reveal that the biomass boiler would emit 6 times more carbon than the adjacent natural gas turbine. Hello? We can keep going. No. Burning wood fuels is not climate friendly. This just keeps going. And one of the best ones was this UK biomass emits more CO2 than coal. They actually had a huge coal plant. They switched it over to burn biomass. Now, when they're figuring it out, it's burning, I think it's 4 times. Burning wood is the electricity sector's second largest CO2 emitter after fossil gas. Drax is the UK's largest single source of CO2 emissions. The one plant that they converted from coal to biomass now produces the largest amount of CO2s out of all power plants in the UK. Drax is the EU's 4th largest CO2 emitter among coal plants when biomass emissions are included. These emissions are not counted in the UK's emissions inventory. Burning wood is treated as carbon neutral despite evidence to the contrary. This is the loophole they use. It's bull crap stats. Just like the whole carbon is the end of the world. Carbon is the gas of life. I inject it in my greenhouse to grow plants. Hello. This is why we are seeing a greening of the earth. There are much worse things coming out of exhaust pipes, coming out of smokestacks. CO2 is not one of them. How about steam? Steam is rated as one of the number 1 greenhouse gases. Yes. So people that are taking cold water out of their lakes, these cities, and heating or using that water to cool their houses, and then once the water warms back up, they circulate it back into that lake. Not only are you changing the complete diversity of that lake, you're destroying the environment, you're also warming the lake, which means on hotter days, you get more water vapor. More water vapor equals faster rises in temperature. We are going at this backwards. This is where a lot of the natives, history that I've studied, that I know, this is kind of the whole 7 fires prophecy. The green tech is the scariest of it all. They were warned. And nobody's doing anything. If you keep bringing it up, I wish more people would talk about it. I'll probably end up doing an episode on it so that a lot of my viewers can actually understand what it's about. But to just kind of put it blatantly, it was kind of like they were warned that these guys are going to come, white man's going to come, they're going to kind of colonize, they're going to take away your lands, they're going to kind of devastate, they're going to do much damage, and then through all the battles and the fighting, you're going to end up succumbing to this, and then another change is going to come, and they're going to come preaching environment and green, and this is going to be the death to the world, and the choice has to be made, and the right choice to make is for them to say no to both and to go back to their roots, go back to the bush and live off the land. That is the fundamental principle I think that all humanity has to realize. I mean, anyways, I'll end up doing an episode on that sometime in the future. It's actually kind of an incredible story, and considering how far back it dates, it not only kind of debunks the idea that certain tribes have been here since time memoriam, because they haven't been. Tribes have been beating each other up for left and right, and I mean, we've got the Clovis people, and nobody can say that they've been on this land for time eternity. It's just a bullshit claim. This story kind of proves that, because it's not one tribe that believes it, it's multiple tribes, and the people that actually came and warned them weren't even from their own tribe. So there's a lot of understanding about the whole conquering and the removal and decimation. Complete tribes just were wiped right off the whole face of the planet, and this is like 500 years ago, people. So anyways, I'll get into that story another time. But I urge you to read all of these. This amber one's really good because they literally did the full test on this plant, and all of the numbers they came up with just reassured that all of the previous articles I read were absolutely right. So the biomass is a complete, it's junk science. Don't believe it. I can't believe people think that burning pellets is better than burning wood. Like, how about you just go out and collect the deadfall and keep your forest clean? And I mean, that's kind of what we've done for centuries. Why not do that? It's just backwards thinking. Anyways, I'm going to dive into this. This is the milk cartel. This is kind of a big thing. This is going to be the next major negotiating, that Canada is going to get the living daylights kicked out of us because we're completely naive to this milk cartel. So I'm going to fill you in on a little bit of the truths about it. But let's just get started on this American ambassador, this interview. It's really good.
We're back on track. Do you think the two countries still have a hope of meeting that 30-day deadline? Is there still a possibility of a deal? Because it obviously lost a few days.
I've talked to both sides over the weekend. I think both sides are optimistic that they can get to an agreement within that time frame. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. There's always something that can sidetrack it, but they both want to get to an agreement. They've got qualified staffs. We got smart people in the room that are working on this, that they have the capability, the desire, and the will to get there.
You are being very positive about all of this, talking about things being on track. U.S. President said in his interview with Fox News over the weekend that Canada is, quote, very nasty to deal with. How is Canada nasty, Ambassador?
Well, I think Canada, I want to be very, very positive because the relationship is a great relationship.
But these are the words of your president.
No, I know. And we're going to be stronger after this than maybe what we are right now. It's going to be an even stronger relationship. But, what is the president thinking about? Oh, they just slapped a brand new tax on us that we've told them for months is an unfair tax. Oh, by the way, you have 11 out of your 13 provinces who ban American products on their shelves. We haven't banned a single Canadian product in the United States. That's a pretty nasty move, okay? You have a number of your provinces have put in provisions into their procurement process that say, oh, if you're an American company, you can't bid. That's pretty nasty.
Yeah, but that was in response to the U.S. slapping major tariffs on this country.
Exactly right now.
So responding is nasty? I'm just trying to get to the heart of this, Ambassador.
Where we are today. Okay, I will accept your characterization of potentially putting tariffs in place. Okay, 90 to 95% of the products that we trade are USMCA compliant, which means there are not tariffs on them.
Yes, I mean, I think we can both acknowledge that the road to get there was pretty complicated, but you've talked about...
We simplified some of those, okay?
But let's talk about the path forward, because I know you're enthusiastic about that. Donald Trump also complained in that interview about supply management, right? The access to the U.S. market when it comes to, or the Americans' access to our market when it comes to things like dairy and poultry. You would know, of course, that there is a law that is passed that hamstrings the Canadian government's ability to make concessions on supply management. You're smiling. That means perhaps that there's not a lot the government can do. Do you think that stands in the way of a deal?
I was part of that other group, not Parliament, but Congress, the equivalent of the two systems are different, but I was part of Congress, and I understand what your Parliament said about you can't do that. I also know that at times we in Congress would do the same thing, to our president or executive branch, saying you can't do that. I have a strong belief that if we negotiated a trade, that if the Prime Minister and the President got to a trade agreement, okay, and for whatever reason it included something that Parliament said you can't do that the Prime Minister probably could find a way to get Parliament to do its will, just like the President today and over the weekend has been working with Congress to try to pass the big, beautiful bill, our tax bill. Prime Ministers and presidents, they've got a tremendous amount of power. I'll leave it there.
Okay, there is a lot more we could say about supply management. We only have a moment
there's
left.
A lot we could say about supply management, absolutely.
And I do want to ask you about
a lot. Now, I'm going to play a small clip. This is from Senator Mary Cole. Just listen to the amount of companies, this is just a short list, that were against legislating the milk cartel into being removed and protected through legislation so it can never again be used in any type of negotiation with trade. This is disgusting.
Our committee heard testimony from other sectors, and we received a letter on October 31st, 2024, from which I will quote just a couple of small excerpts. And I quote from this letter, and I'll tell you who it's from in a minute. If enacted in its unamended state, the previous identical bill, C-282, would legislatively handcuff Canada and its trade negotiators. We ask senators to put the collective interests of all Canadian industries first by rejecting Bill C-282 and to protect our future economic prosperity. And this letter was signed by, yes, you're going to hear the list, Alberta Beef Producers, Alberta Canola Producers Commission, Alberta Cattle Feeders Association, Alberta Chambers of Commerce, Alberta Grains, Alberta Pulse Growers, BC Association of Cattle Feeders, BC Grain Producers Association, Beef Farmers of Ontario, BC Cattlemen's Association, Canadian Agri-Food Trade Alliance, Canadian Canola Growers Association, Canadian Cattle Association, Canadian Oilseed Processors Association, Canadian Pork Council, Canadian Sugar Institute, Canola Council of Canada, Cereals Canada, CropLife Canada, Fertilizer Canada, Grain Farmers of Ontario, Grain Farmers of Canada, Greater Vancouver Board of Trade, Pulse Canada, Manitoba Beef Producers, Manitoba Canola Growers, Manitoba Crop Alliance, Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers, National Cattle Feeders Association, New Brunswick Cattle Producers, Nova Scotia Cattle Producers, Ontario Bean Growers, Ontario Greenhouse Vegetable Growers, Prairie Oak Growers Association, Prince Edward Island Cattle Producers, Saskatchewan Cattlemen's Association, Saskatchewan Heavy Construction Association, Saskatchewan Pulse Growers, Saskatchewan Trucking Associations, Sask Oilseeds, Sask Wheat, Soy Canada, Wheat Growers Association.
Now, she keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And there are thousands of other industries that aren't on this list that they got their panties in a twist. And I don't blame them. This is absolutely backwards. We're going to go into, oh, and by the way, it passed unanimously in Parliament. And she even goes on to say how, because it passed unanimously in Parliament, more than likely it should pass unanimously in the Senate, and it did. Socialism has a firm grip in our nation. I make my own cheese. Now, I guess I'll have to really watch what I say, because a little bit further on down the road, you're going to see the charges a person can get. You're not allowed to sell raw milk. You're not allowed to sell anything. You can sell aged cheese, but how do I get the cream unpasteurized raw in order to make my cheese and age it? This kills all competitiveness in that industry, destroys it, criminalizes it, and penalizes those, I'm talking very, very harshly. Now, there was a court case that happened 16 years ago. I was glued to it. I was watching it because I do the homestead thing. I'm very much into natural foods. Excuse me. I also understand that the whole raw milk thing that everybody likes to, the media, the propaganda pushed out for a long time, pushed through by big business to scare people into thinking that raw milk is bad. No, it's not. Raw milk is 1,000 times better for you than pasteurized milk. Not only that, all of the products that you can get off of that raw milk, once you get that raw milk, oh man, I'm sure there's a lot of you at home that have had this. I'm going to go big screen and get into a bit of a story. I remember this. Oh man, they bring the big jars. They set that jar down. Oh, you put that in the fridge. Put some wax paper under the lid. Ooh, the next day, get up. Pop that lid open. Big ladle. Take that cream off the top. Oh, you'd separate that. That was for desserts later on. Mom would make cheese and sour cream and all the yummy stuff out of it. And then you get, once that cream was off, the little wee bit that kind of got mixed, the kids would race for that, because that's, whoever got that in their cereal in the morning, oh man, there is nothing better. Those days are gone. Now, they'd haul my mom off to jail. This is the world we live in. Now, here is a great article that was put out. National Post, first reading, How Canada's Dairy Cartel Keeps Fumbling Our Foreign Trade Negotiations. As Canada is actively trying to expand its trade with the non-US world, Parliament has just entrenched the one thing that has scuppered more trade negotiations than anything else. This week, the first bill passed by the 45th Parliament ended up being a Bloc Québécois champion proposal to shield the Canadian supply management system from any foreign trade negotiations. Blah, 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 blah. Although the bill has been framed as a boon for the country's 9,000 dairy farms, everyone from trade analysts to other Canadian farmers have warned that it comes at the cost of kneecapping Canada's ability to grow its global trade links. The Grain Growers of Canada, and remember that whole list? There's a pile of them. They went right through this thing. At a time when Canada must be demonstrating leadership and consistency in defending predictable, rules-based trade, this bill sends the wrong message. Supply management has directly led to the collapse of at least one major Canadian trade deal and has held up negotiations on several others. In January, the UK walked away from negotiations for a bilateral trade deal with Canada over Ottawa's refusal to compromise on supply management and accept increased imports. 2015 negotiations since canceled Trans-Pacific Partnership. Canada's refusal to allow trade to access its dairy sector wound up becoming one of the deal's most conspicuous snags. A U.S. negotiator, Darcy Vetter, said at the time Canada was trying to close a market access deal that doesn't include market access. It goes on and on and on. Again, I post all of the links below. I got lots to go on to, so we're just going to keep going. So This is the another article I'll post for you guys to read. Canada's dairy cartel versus consumers. This just kind of highlights the total insanity of everything that's in there. Montreal economist William Watson recently compared the average retail price of 4 liters of milk and found the average price in U.S. cities so far this year was $3.85 Canadian. In comparison, according to Statistics Canada, 4 liters of milk will set the consumer back between $4.50 to $7, $6.79. And all other cities surveyed are within that range. So that was $4.50 in Regina and $6.79 in Charlottetown. Now, this goes on and on. This was 2011. The prices now are outrageously different. They are so bad now that you've got this going on.
A growing list of butter thefts have hit local grocery stores. Police say there have been multiple thefts of large amounts of butter in both Brantford and Guelph, and the trend may be spreading farther. As CTV's Colton Weens tells us, it may sound funny, but it's no laughing matter to businesses who rely on it.
Since December of last year, so about 11 months or so, we've had 9 separate incidents where large amounts of butter were stolen from local grocery stores.
An unusual kind of crime hitting grocery stores in Guelph and Brantford. People stealing large amounts of butter.
Any idea why people would be doing this?
It's really unknown. I mean, there must be a market for it, somewhere on the black market. I know if you go on some of the online marketplaces, for example, you can actually find butter for sale. So, that would be the likely. It's certainly, they're not stealing it in quantities that would be personal use. I mean, they're stealing, dozens or more.
A week ago, Brantford police say $1,200 worth of butter was stolen from a grocery store, describing the suspects as 2 men in black clothing and baseball hats who took off in a white van. And in Guelph, police say hundreds to thousands of dollars in butter has been stolen since last year, and investigators don't think the thefts are just a local problem.
I think this is probably going on just about everywhere.
Staff at one store.
Now, it is going on everywhere. In fact, there was one in Vancouver here not long ago. Literally, they backed right up to the doors and they hauled an entire semi-load of it away. And people are going, wow, it's just the price. Well, not only is it just the price, the immigrants that are coming in come from a society based upon butter and ghee. They use it for everything in their cuisine. It is a fundamental staple. Now they're in a country where you can't sell or buy raw milk. They are forced to go to the store and pay prices that to them make no sense. Which, to most Canadians, it should make no sense. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because what we pay for butter is insane. And just wait, we're going to break down how good your butter really is in Canada through a cartel. Now, first, I just want to dive into this. So, actually, let's go this way first. Okay. Historically, butter was used in various ways, ranging from cooking and preserving to medicinal and religious purposes. So this is just an article talking about the historical significance of butter in ancient India. Now, it's not just ancient India. This is a huge part of Europe, not just India. So definitely the Hindu, right, the Sikh and all that whole, definitely. This falls into a lot more countries, but this is dealing with just India. So we'll go on. It was used for cooking medium due to its. It was used as a cooking medium due to its rich flavor and high smoking point, but also acted as a natural preservative, allowing food to be stored for longer periods. Additionally, it was incorporated into traditional medicines for its supposed healing properties. Beyond its culinary applications, butter held deep cultural and spiritual significance in ancient India. It was considered a sacred substance and was used in religious rituals and ceremonies. Butter lamps, known as diyas, were lit during religious festivals to symbolize the victory of light over darkness. Furthermore, butter is an integral part of Ayurveda. I have a hard time saying that word. I hope I said it right. The ancient Indian system of medicine. It was believed to possess rejuvenating and purifying properties, promoting physical and mental well-being. Butter as a staple in ancient Indian cuisine. Butter's cultural significance. Natural benefits of butter. Butter in traditional recipes. The role of butter in Ayurvedic cooking. Ritual significance of butter. Ghee, the clarified butter of ancient India. Butter in ancient Indian rituals and ceremonies. Butter as a symbol of abundance and prosperity in ancient India. The spiritual benefits of consuming butter in ancient Indian traditions. Butter and its importance in yogic practices in ancient India. Exploring the different types of butter used in ancient Indian cooking. We're talking from cow ghee, buffalo ghee, sheep ghee, right? Like it just goes on and on and on and on and on. These people, there isn't a single family that doesn't come from any of these cultures or these areas throughout all of Asia that don't know how to make their own butter. And from it, all of the other derivatives that they get from butter, from milk, this is a huge part of their life. The milk cartel has to end. And I have a feeling with the amount of immigrants we've got in here, we may very well finally see it come to fruition. The saddest part is it won't be the Canadians born and raised here that have been brainwashed into thinking that the system is somehow protecting them. It'll be the new Canadians coming in going, you people have no idea what the hell you're talking about. We drink unpasteurized milk. The cow is a sacred animal. Butter, I'm sorry. You're not taking that from me. And it is a symbolic part of trade within their culture. There's major significance. The insanity. Now, there's another article here. So this article is about butter prices in Canada are at breaking records December 19th, 2024. Now, it kind of goes through the entire part of it here, but this is, I want you to understand this one part. Canadian farmers are paying for milk fat at a premium of 40 to 50%, leading them to feed cows palm oil to increase fat content. This has resulted in raw milk shortage for butter production, causing a surge in butter thefts in Canadian cities, with one incident resulting in over €800 worth of butter stolen. The thefts have been advertised on social media with speculation of involvement from restaurant and bakery owners. The situation has led to butter being referred to as yellow gold, with prices rising significantly between 2019 and 2024, and a potential in further increases, blah, 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 blah. Now, this is what a lot of people aren't aware. And we've talked about this, and I looked into it, and yes, have you noticed in the last, especially the last, say, 10, 12 years, butter's getting really hard. You can leave it out. It doesn't even get soft. It's really hard. Now, there's a lot of crap butter that's out there. You got to make sure you read the labels. But even just the real 100% made from dairy, Canada Dairy, it doesn't say anything about the palm oil. Well, why? Because it's not added after. They're feeding it to the cows.
Tonight with some added texture to the dairy debate raging across this country. It's all about the controversy over butter. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin with the hard truth.
Talk of butter is on the menu around kitchen tables in this country.
Butter is harder.
So much so, our neighbors to the south are poking a little fun.
That's right, hard butter. America's like, I can't believe it's a news story.
It is, and the dairy farmers of Canada are now taking it seriously enough to recommend some members modify cow feed for now.
To look at the science of it, to look at, the information that is out there.
Buttergate began with this tweet from a food writer suggesting a consistency change, and a flurry of butterers and bakers agreed. Food scientist Sylvain Charlevoix offered a theory.
Butter's hard and palm oil is bad.
Palm oil is widely used in processed foods like cookies and ice cream, but its harvest is blamed for the deforestation of the rainforest. Turns out palm oil and derivatives are also used in some cow feed.
We have fed palm oil in the past to our cows. And actually, perhaps we do right now unknowingly because we buy commercial supplements.
A recipe to boost the yield of butter fat that has been used for years, with most dairy consumers unaware. And that rang alarm bells around the world about health and environmental concerns.
The fact that farmer, who is part of the milk cartel, doesn't even know what the supplements are that he is needed to buy through the cartel to feed their cattle should scare you.
Many food scientists, though, say the theory of butter smoothness that launched all this is purely anecdotal.
I would propose that maybe we should be doing a little study on this. That would probably take a couple of days, showing that milk fat or butter is in fact harder.
It could be that some are just taking a closer look at their ingredients. After all, COVID home baking has boosted sales.
Yeah. It's scary. Very scary. Just a small reminder about palm oil.
There's a good chance you're not familiar with it, even though you'll find it in many of the products you use every day. It's in everything, from makeup and toothpaste to donuts, chocolate bars, and in some countries, biodiesel fuel.
Biodiesel fuel. But wait, there's more.
It is in our food, toothpaste, cosmetics, and now it's also in our biofuel. Palm oil is an integrated part of our everyday lives, and Indonesia is the biggest producer of palm oil in the world. Unfortunately, behind this economical goldmine lies a devastating ecological truth.
The peatland forest is actually right now is threatened because of the massive expansion of oil palm plantation and also pulpwood plantation. And this massive expansion is actually converted this peatland forest to become the plantation. While it's converted, this forest emit a lot of CO2, and because of this is peatlands, those CO2 is continuously emitted. So it's like ticking, and at the end it will be a disaster because those huge amount of CO2 then emitted to the atmosphere and become a massive greenhouse gas emission.
What happened to CO2 bad? What happened to burning all the rainforest bad? Oh right, this is Carney. This is Carney and the same Liberal Party that has been in power for the last 10 years. I urge you, please, watch previous episodes. I got lots of great information down there. The series that I did on Brookfield and Carney will blow the lid off of this. How he is personally responsible and is, well, hated amongst the indigenous around many different countries around the world, but specifically South America, Brazil, where his company literally, not only the dams and all the rest of the fake dams running indigenous off their land, but how they're responsible for burning forests down for palm farms. Well, I guess it would be in his interest to make sure they protect the industry that's not trying to tell its own citizens that they're feeding animals palm oil to increase the fat content in your milk. Yeah. Now, that isn't the craziest part.
Hey guys, we're here at Hugenbos Farm in southern Ontario. We milk about 260 cows. Right now during the winter months, you milk quite a bit more milk because the feed is very consistent. And as you do a good job, you will produce quite a bit of milk. So, but right now we're over our quota. It's regulated by the government and by the DFO. But the problem is what they don't understand is millions of people look at this milk running away because it's the end of the month. So I have to dump 30,000 liters of milk. It breaks my heart. I will show you. By the way, this here, Canadian milk, it's $7 a liter. When I go for my haircut, people say, wow, $7, Jerry, for a little bit of milk. I say, well, you have to go higher up because we have no say anymore as a dairy farmer on our own farm because they make us dump it. And no matter how we stand up, so this time I'm going public. I want the people to see the pain that us growers have of 365 days. As a little boy, we grew up on a dairy farm, came from Europe, work, and here we are. This is what's happening. Oh, by the way, only one country in the world here in Canada. There's not the United States, not Europe, where they dump thousands of liters when they're over. But we're not supposed to talk about this because, I don't know, it's just one of those things. But as it's happening, I hope the DFO does look at this and says to themselves, you tell me, if you're in the pig business, the wood industry, any steel industry, if you're 10% over when your times are good, how can you, so for us when it's good, our little bit of profit, it goes down the drain. How do you guys dare to put this product on the market for $7 a liter and think that that's okay when there's a lot of mothers, single mothers with no extra, like, they have maybe a few kids to feed or whatever, or the sick kids hospital it could go to. It could go anywhere, to the food banks. But I hope you're proud, and I think you're going to be surprised, because yes, my name is Jerry Hilden. And I'm very proud that we send a really good product. And that you just kind of tell us, well, throw it down the drain. Nobody sees it. It's okay. Well, it's not okay. So, with that being said, it's one of the best products in the world. We've been milking here for 43 years. So I just hope that people will share this. I hope that I haven't defended anybody, but the dairy industry, for my kids, it has to keep growing. We're not growing, not even by 10%. We get a little bit of quota for free, okay, that gets given to us. Should never be that way. You should buy, just like a trucker has to buy his transport truck, okay? And by the way, my 90 cents that I get for my liter of raw milk, they really have to do nothing to it because it's
90 cents he gets. 90 cents. This is 2 years old. 90.
the best milk in the world. But what happens is, I pay for the trucking, I pay for the commercialized, everything is paid to the farmer. Okay? So, but anyways, I do want to see, as you can see here, Abraham, the good product, the cows are happy. I mean, look at these cows, right? They are free roaming.
That's a good looking cow, man. That's a beauty.
Smile. So, anyhow.
Now, this is the reality. This is the reality of a milk cartel. Now, do you know how many obviously, I know piles of farmers. I know a lot of the homesteading. I'm part of that, and it's just a huge growing community. This is probably one of the most contentious debates that the small farmers have, because it stifles their farm. The dairy aspect is the full circle needed in order to have a proper homestead. Now, what are we supposed to do with our abundance of milk? My kids are all grown up, and now what do I do with that? We can't drink 7 to 10 liters a day, but I'm not allowed to sell it. This is ridiculous. Here's some of like the fines. I'll go, and again, I post everything in the links. I urge you to go through this and read this. This is total insanity. So offense, selling raw milk or unaged raw cheese. Summary conviction, maximum $50,000 fine or maximum 6 months jail or both. Conviction by indictment, maximum $250,000 fine, maximum 3 years in jail or both. Now each province also has their own laws. Alberta, $25,000 fine. Maximum. First, selling raw milk, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to go through the kind of very close to the same. British Columbia, $10 to $500 fine, $50 to $5,000 fine, $3,000 up to 3 years in jail. Some prefer the jail over the money. Manitoba, $20,000, 6 months in jail or both. New Brunswick, $500 fine to $50,000 fine. Newfoundland, $500 to $5,000, 1 to 6 months in jail. Second offense, $5,000 to $20,000, 2 to 6 months in jail or both. Nova Scotia, $2,000 fine, 6 in jail. Ontario, $2,000 fine for each day of the offense. Continues, maximum of $10,500. They actually had to do a little bit of changes, in which I'm going to get to at the end of this show here. It just goes on and on. Prince Edward Island, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 6 months in jail, can do it all at once, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, fine for a third. It just, Quebec, 350 to 2,000, 800 to 4,000, 1,400 to 13,000. Like, they got it split right up. Like, it's just, this is insanity. Saskatchewan, $75,000 maximum fine for a first offense. $75,000 in my province. Hello, Mo. You better get on this. What a joke. And further maximum $100 fine for each day during which the offense continues. Second and subsequent offenses, $100,000 fine and $200 a day. Like, this is just craziness. Northwest Territories, $10,000 for and $1,000 each day. $25,000, 12 months in jail or both. Like, none of it. $10,000 to $500,000 per individual. Fine from $100,000 to $50,000 maximum 1 year in jail or both. For selling raw milk. Welcome to socialism. One man fought the system. And even though he won, he never won.
Ontario dairy farmer Michael Schmidt won a major victory today in a Newmarket court.
I don't think the battle itself is finished because the battle for food rights is not finished. I think it is just a starting point.
Good, huh? A justice of the peace found him not guilty of all 19 charges laid under 3 different provincial legislations and a health act for selling raw milk.
Sometimes it was, why are we still struggling after 16 years? And it seems to never end. And then you take a glass of milk and then you say, that's why we do it. Because it is just so good.
Mr. Schmidt has always maintained that he was not selling it to the general public, and that was a key point of the ruling.
It wasn't the issue of is raw milk better or not. The issue was very clearly, do people have the right to make a decision, a conscious decision? And do people, when they enter into a private contract, have actually the right to, or the freedom to do that?
For the Toronto Sun.
Now, people are afraid. This was 7 years ago. And even though he beat it, he only beat it because he was using the system in order to purposely stir the hornet's nest. The end goal is to end the cartel, to free dairy. That is the end goal.
This farm is the first certified Cowshare Canada cowshare operation. So they went through the training, they went through the accreditation, through the testing and so on. And they get attacked by the government through 5 intimidating inspectors. Now, that is at the first, it's very scary when you think about it. That government goes after, people here. They're 60 years old. They do it out of love. They do it because they see that there's a need. And they're passionate about healthy food. And they know what they're doing. So the effect, this attack on them, and I call it an attack because the agent said it's in the best interest of Paul, the farmer, to talk to them why it is illegal what he's doing. He tried to contact them. They backed off. As they backed off, many people basically grouped around them. And I call that created a veil of protection, social protection. That means they are standing up for their rights because it's not about Kathy Noble and it's not about Paul Noble. It is about their food. And they have invested in this farm to protect their food. And that is practical food sovereignty.
Now, him and his wife they're very intellectual people, very smart, highly educated, self-taught, a lot of it. These people, they do major reading, and they're very health conscious. And they were warning us years ago that this is not just the milk. This is going to start, big companies are going to start crushing small, real healthy homestead farms. And we're seeing it. Trust me, on the prairies, what used to be 500 farmers all around in one little wee area, I couldn't see the towns on either side of me when I first moved here. Now, it's like 7 farmers own all the land or lease all the land. They've clear cut everything. I can see both towns on opposite side of me. I never used to hear the trains. The trains are 7.5 miles away. Now sitting on my deck, I can hear the trains because there's no acoustic barrier. There's nothing but sprays and GMO. Our entire food system is crumbling. And it's because of systems like the milk cartel that have allowed just the masses to think that this is normal. It's not normal. The cow is the finishing circle on any homestead, on any farm. And no farmer in their right mind wants to throw anything away. Mine goes to the pigs. It goes to the pigs. I'd sure like for it to go, to a family who can't afford $8.50 for a jug of milk, or to be able to make butter and sell butter to the less fortunate around me. Not only do I still make money off it, I'm gonna make money off it. Jesus, man, like that guy's only getting 90 cents a liter, and they're selling it for $7.99. He could be selling it for $3 a liter, making way more money, and still saving the buyers more than 50%. But oh no. You want socialism, Eastern Canada. And I shouldn't say just Eastern, because all the MPs voted this in. It was unanimous. The cartel has to go. Free the cow. Free the dairy. I'm hoping that I don't have to delete these videos, that they're not copyright. If they are, I apologize. I usually get caught, and sometimes you'll see in some of my videos, there'll be like little sections cut out. If I remove the video and then I put it back up, I lose that viewing thing. And then, of course, I end up dropping off of my algorithm. So I end up having to do a correction on the fly. I'm hoping I don't have to do that in this case, or with most of what I put on here. But it does happen sometimes. So, there's a lot more to this milk cartel. Like I said, I am eventually going to do, and I've been trying to work it out. I'm already well over 2.5 hours, and I haven't even gone halfway there. So in order to just keep compiling all of the rest of the evidence and getting all of the facts and making sure that I can find them in forums so that I can share that in my description like I always do, so that my viewers have nothing but the truth. Sorry, so sorry. Just the truth, just the facts. That's what I'm here for. Anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed my episode. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, please. And if you are, make sure you punch that notification bell. It not only helps me grow the channel, you won't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm Alias Tagay. Stay informed.